All right, so we are live here with our first episode of the Healing Through Mind and Motion podcast, where we explore the relationships between the mind and body and how we can use those tools to overcome chronic pain and get back to living a life we love. I'm your host, Brian Cade, and I'm excited to have Movnat Master Instructor with us, Jerome Rattoni. I'm going to say it the best I can. Um, Thank you so much for being on the show. I've been watching your content for a while, and your warmth and enthusiasm and passion for this message just inspires me every time I see it. So I'm happy to have you on the show.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be the first guest in your podcast, and wish a good life, good health and life to your project.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate it. So I wanted to start out because not everyone knows what Movnat is. Would you be able to share? I know it's the broad topic, but what, in your opinion, is Movnat?
Yeah, Movnat is what is the movements is a method based on the movements that we forgot, you know,
Mhm.
as kids. This is the way I like to start it. I could define it with a real definition that is based on natural movement from human beings. We could talk about practical movement. We could talk about efficiency of movement. We could talk about adaptability of those natural movements in different environments or different situations. This is more the definition I give during the certification events, because we train the trainers at Movnat. We train people that want to train their community and help their community. But I like to start with the simple fact that if you look at kids and you see how kids move from a very young age, you will see that you are not able to do 10% of what they are doing
Mhm.
as an adult. I don't say you in particular, I mean in general. Why? Because we had a sedentary lifestyle and we sat on a chair way too much. We move less and less. And instead of thinking about, okay, I will not move the whole week, but I will go to the gym once a week, and I will have all the equipment needed. My iPhone on my bicep when I run. I will have all the apps and all the perfect shoes. And being in this gym that we can call also a container, I'd rather think about regaining freedom of movement. Freedom, like, okay, a kid doesn't really count the reps and rounds. You
Right.
know, they go in a playground and they're like, all right, what can we do? What world can we recreate?
Mhm.
So it's not only about your body moving, it's about your brain functioning and enjoying life. Um, I always say that during the level one event, when we talk about crawling, which is one of the fundamental movements we have, is if you check how a baby does crawling, it starts on the back,
Mhm.
roll onto their belly, and then they want to see the world. And how do they try to see the world? By lifting their head. And their head is usually very heavy compared to their body, right?
Right.
The proportion. And they look around and they see a lot of colors. They have a lot of feelings from this exploration. But when they leave their head, and if we can get back to the fitness world, they don't really train. They don't think about training their neck or their traps. You know, they don't really think, oh yeah, I will have a big traps, big neck, and I will look good in the mirror. They just lift their head because they want to do a practical movement, which is seeing around them. Right, as simple
Mhm.
as this, seeing around them and potentially grab something they like. So that's why they would need crawling after the exploration. So by the simple fact to explore and do a practical movement, they they make themselves a more solid structure, you know, and they don't really care about how much time it will take, like adults would do. They don't think about,
Mhm.
I need to get this strong neck by next week because I have a competition or I
Mhm.
have a grappling contest. You know what I mean? So they are not tied with a deadline, and they really don't care about a lot of rules that we impose on ourselves as adults. And I could open the topic on injuries, why people get injured and why people get pain, because
Mhm.
maybe they push too fast, too soon, or they are not conditioned and they don't respect the time that it would take to rehab or prehab, you know.
Mhm.
So, long story short, I say that Movnat is really a method that resets ourselves. It's like a fresh reset. You're like, okay, how did I start? Where did I start? What is my state right now? And how can I link from the moment I started to the moment I am now, respecting the time and the energy it takes to regain health, vitality, agility, and
Mhm.
so on.
So it's really, I love the connection to children and how freely they move. Just like it's for them, they're just exploring their environment, and that by going back, and it may take longer to get back to that childlike state. Um, One thing you mentioned is like the idea of like play and exploring. What do you think the connection is to play? Because so many times, like, people wanna get back and exercise, and, like, they don't like exercise because that feels like work and all of this stuff. So how do we, if we're not used to exercising, get back to that play and that kinda, like, childlike mindset around movement again?
Yeah, so even before you think about exercising or play, what is important is not to experience pain anymore
Okay.
or to reduce pain.
Mhm.
My girlfriend is a physiotherapist,
Mm.
and she's a level 2 Movnat trainer. So she's using on a daily basis the Movnat method, especially the level 1 curriculum, based on all the fundamental movements, and she gives it to patients with pain. People go to a physiotherapist because they have a pain somewhere, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And she has patients from could be 30 years old, but she has like people with a 70, they are 70, 75, 80 years old, and she makes us do movements that will trigger their brain to overcome this pain. Like pain was a signal,
Mhm.
but what was the cause? And she's trying to find the cause based on the movement she asked them to do. If they are not able to perform a movement because it's too painful, well, we do another movement, or we reduce the intensity of this movement, and we see if this person can do it. And you see a lot of I've seen her doing a lot of great things with patients with knee arthritis, for example, and they
Mhm.
cannot barely walk, and after like a few weeks they do tiny jumps,
Right.
you know so once you get rid of the pain and you're
Mhm.
like, oh my god, I can get up. I mean, even 2 days ago she shared with me a video from a lady that went from a prone lying, we call it prone lying when you're on your belly, to a kneeling, and then she was able to get up by herself.
Mhm.
And this lady cried from
Wow.
emotion. She was like, and she was thanking God, and she was like, I can't believe I just did this,
Mhm.
and without pain. So now that you open this door, now you can talk about, why don't you play with your grandkids now? Now you can go to the park and walk with them, or maybe throw a ball with them, and then you can talk about, okay, I would like to get more fit. Maybe I want to sign up for whatever competition, or but it starts with getting rid of the pain and regaining function, original function. Function, full
Yeah.
function, and no pain. That would be the goal for pretty much everybody. How about someone proposing you a contract saying that, Brian, for the whole your lifetime, you will have a full function of your body with no pain. But apart from that, you don't do competition. You just live your life like this.
Mhm.
Could be a good deal.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, I'd like that. No pain, full function. I'm free to do whatever I want with my body. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I used to wanna do competitions and everything, and I told you a little bit, it's like, ended up with migraines 3 to 4 times a week, sometimes more, and it's like, yeah, the only thing I've wanted for, like, the last 8 years is, like, how do I move my body pain free and enjoy movement again? Because I grew up, the gym was like a safe place for me. I enjoyed just the space and the peace, and it's like I lost that. And so for me initially, like maybe compete down the road, but like just enjoying movement pain free, like that's um yeah, for me it doesn't get much better than that. Um and I really love that for you, or you mentioning that that's kind of the foundation is getting rid of pain first and then building that functionality so your function restores in the same time frame. So
Again, it's we have the truth in front of us. Like
mm,
if you look at kids who are not altered by many things. I mean, even more younger and younger now, they're altered by the tablets and the phones and stuff like this. But when they get injured, they fall bad or something, they
mhm,
cry and they stop moving
mhm,
for a while. They rest, they wait, and then they get back to it.
mhm,
You know, so there are moments that you need to rest, there are moment and many moments you need to move. Okay, most of the time we should be able to move. It doesn't have to be high intensity movements all the time. It doesn't have to be, but ground movements, I think we already discussed this, you and me, earlier. Ground movement is key, to regain function and to reduce pain. Sitting our butt on the ground is really powerful, because then it will teach you so many positions that you can explore and
mhm,
transition. So you were asking me what is Movnat, what is the definition of Movnat. Movnat is the method based on the practice of natural movement.
mhm,
And how can we define natural movement? It's very simple. You go from a position A to a position B using a transition. So
mhm,
what we practice at Movnat is all the positions you can imagine. So on the ground, we can name a few like side bend sit, long
mhm,
sit, figure four, deep half kneel, deep squat, and so on and so forth. Side bend sit. So those are positions. And we can say,
mhm,
I would like all of you to be in a side bend sit now. All right, you get yourself in a side bend sit. And then I say side bend sit to deep squat.
mhm,
So you get yourself from a side bend sit to on your feet, knees pointing up, and you are in the deep squat. That was a natural movement because you were going from position A to position B, and you had to find a way to go from A to B, finding a transition. And your brain is meant for that. Our brain is meant for this. Like Yawanokor said, art and culture comes after this. The first function is this, moving yourself in space.
mhm. Yeah, I read somewhere that nothing more than movement challenges our brain, whether it's reading or chess, like just using our body through space, we have to figure out so much different information. Um, in a moment, I'd like to share kind of some of the videos because it's one thing to talk about the movement, but it's another thing to see how you're doing the transitions. I think they're pretty impressive. But how did you go from what you were doing, which I believe was in the automotive software industry, based off what I saw on Movnat? How did you go from there to full time working, teaching workshops all across the world?
Yeah, interesting question. It's usually a question I get, yes. Well, I always like sports. I always like to be in nature. Growing up in France, I used to spend a lot of time in the south of France when we have the sea, the Mediterranean Sea, and I like to swim there. And when I watched the video from Erwan, the workout the world forgot, it reminded me of my childhood. But in the meantime, I got very hooked on playing soccer. So I was
Mhm,
a soccer player for 20 plus years, and but I didn't really take care of my body the way it should. I didn't really understand the power of natural movement, the transitions on the ground, and hip mobility, and these kind of things. So I was just playing, playing, playing until my body was screaming for help. And
yeah,
it's only when I reached 30 years old that I was a bit, tired of being injured, like hamstring tears or spraining ankles. I think like this, that I started to look on the internet what I could do to overcome those injuries, and I
Wow.
found this video, the workout the world forgot,
Mm.
from Movnat, and I was like, wow, that looks good. You know, the guy is looking good, moving well. It doesn't seem very hard for him because he had a good poker face when he was moving. And when I tried those movements, I realized that I was far from being able to do this. While on video, it looks
Yeah.
natural. It looks possible. You know, it looks like, oh, I could do this too. But the difference between the reality and my dream was huge. So I decided to give it a go. You know, I was like, I will train this, and I put to soccer on the side for a while, thinking I will get back to it. But the more I practiced, the more I discovered that, you know, I had a good potential to move well, and my upper body started to change. I started to gain weight. On
Mm.
my problem was that I was too skinny. Some people have hard time to lose weight. For me, it was hard to gain weight.
Yeah.
But I was gaining weight and a good weight based on, you know, getting more strong, you know, stronger, more muscle mass, especially on the upper body.
Yeah.
I started to really like climbing. I like jumping, lifting as well. I was not lifting anything, but now I started to lift rocks, logs, you know, some primal
Yeah.
equipment.
Did
And
you?
yeah.
So you were having these injuries. I believe you said ankle issues, knee issues. Was it? Did you set out to explore Movnat to heal those, or was it you found Erwin LaCour's stuff and were like, "I'm going to try that because I can," and it happened to be a byproduct? Like, how did that transition go? Was it an intentional or?
Yeah, no, my first thinking was to overcome the injuries to keep playing football, to keep playing
Hmm.
soccer. I was not thinking I would make, you know, a career or, you know, being an instructor. For me, that was just this. But the fact is, yes, I had a full-time job in the automotive industry. I have a master degree in international trade, import, export, so I know business.
Yeah.
I was an international salesperson, traveling to Asia, US, from Europe for this company in Hungary, because I was based in Hungary at the time.
Hmm.
And, uh, and yeah, so I had my full time, but at the same in the morning and evening I was practicing Movnat. So I
Hmm.
was going in a park which was next to our house, and I realized people were looking at what I was doing. Like, what is it? Even kids, you know, especially kids were going to me like, wow, what is he doing? You know, it's so cool. And the parents were asking questions. And some parents started to say, hey, do you teach? Do you
Hmm.
coach? Because we would like to move like you. And I said, okay, well, I started to think, okay, maybe I should do my level one, level two MoveNet certification so I
Yeah.
could coach people, you know? And this is what I did. So it was back in 2013, 14. As I had my full-time job, I also did the certification, and I was teaching people at 6 a.m. in the morning before my office day.
Right.
Or I was taking also a women class on Saturday. So I started to grow, you know, my coaching, and the percentage, you know, the ratio started to be like I was coaching, and I was, you know, trying to still focus on my main job, but I felt like my passion was really into this, you know, representing Movnat. And so Movnat asked me if I could actually be an instructor, you know, for them, traveling on the weekends. So I did that for 4 years, actually, having two jobs. From 2015 to 2019, I was basically doing a full-time job, and on the weekend I was traveling. Maybe I was taking 1 day or 2 days off if I needed to teach level two, because level two usually is the Monday, Tuesday. Level one is on the weekend. So, and this is when I realized one thing. It was a funny story. I saw the president of our company in the corridor, and I was wearing a shirt, and and the guy goes, touched the shoulder and goes, "You train too much,"
Hmm.
meaning he saw that I was changing physically, but
Yeah.
he was like, you may not be as focused as before on your task here. You know what I mean? And I
Mhm.
was like, maybe he's right. Maybe my mind is shifting towards this thing. And as I put a lot of effort and time into this activity, well, if you put a lot of time and energy into something, you
Mhm.
become this thing. And it was just a natural path for me to switch and use my skills also to help the company, to help Movnat growing globally, especially in Europe, because I'm usually based in Europe,
Mhm.
so I could grow the market there, and having, bringing another voice. Like I told you at the beginning of our conversation, I like to think that Movnat is for everyone, and I
Mhm.
have a link with office workers because I was an office worker. I was doing my 9 to 5. I know what it is to be stuck in the office for a full day, for a full week,
Yeah.
all year long, and people are stuck. They say, "Oh, I will go to the gym," but they don't realize that they could do a few movement snacks, here and there, morning, evening, to feel better. So, there is a platform a social media platform called LinkedIn.
Mhm.
A lot of people use it in the business industry. And I like to say that we need to communicate to those people because those are the people who need it the most. They need the young guys who do sports. It's all good, but they may need Movnat at some point because of injuries or whatever. But the people we need most are the people stuck in a sedentary lifestyle.
Mhm. Yeah, and I love the idea of movement snacks, especially because I was talking to someone today, and he does little pieces now that we gave him of movement. He's like, "Yeah, I'm exercising 4 or 5 times a day." He's like, "I never thought I would do that." It's like I said before, it's like exercise has this sometimes negative connotation versus the idea of like a movement snack, like a quick little thing that gets you go. Could you expand on that a little bit? The idea of a movement snack?
Yeah, absolutely. This is I've been a big advocate of movement snacks, like based on the story I just told you.
Yeah.
Uh, because if you do, if you're an instructor at Movnat and you tell people, well, to live a healthy life, you need to move 8 hours a day.
Mhm.
People will be like, it's all good, but I don't have those 8 hours. You
Right.
know, in an ideal world, yeah, you wake up and you move, you train, you eat, you sleep, and you move again. But it's not real. Because people have to make a living. They have to pay their bills. They have responsibilities. But what can you still do? Instead, so the analogy I like to give to explain movement snacks is that right now, I have a bottle of water here and I'm sipping on it
Mhm.
just to feel good throughout the day. I will do a lot of sips throughout the day. Um, but if you tell me, well, Jerome, I would like you not to drink anything throughout the whole day, but then I want you at a particular time, which will be 7 p.m. until 7:15. I want you to drink the whole bottle.
Mhm.
You know, yeah, okay, that could be a deal, but I would rather prefer to sip on my bottle all day long, feeling good about not being thirsty all the time, rather than doing this. So, but people don't find it strange when we talk about movement.
Mhm.
They stay in the office all day long, and then they will go to a gym, and they will hit the gym hard, for half an hour, 45 minutes, and they will sweat, they will feel like, okay, I got the pump. But if you think about what happens to your nervous system, is like a big shock.
Mhm.
It's like flatline, and then you get a big spike, and then
Right.
flatline again when you're back home and you watch TV, and then you get back on a train or a car, going back to the office and is repeating the same thing. So what we like with movement snacks is to trigger your nervous system, to keep alert, to be like, yeah, we are supposed to move a lot. It could be 2 minutes. You can be in the office typing, you can go on the ground, do just a deep squat, or
Mhm.
like a tripod transition, like we discussed earlier, a bit of crawling. or whatever. We have a lot of movement snacks that we can offer that are like 2 to 3 minutes, and then you get back to what you were doing, and your brain will feel better. Your cognitive skills will improve, based on this.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna actually share, if it's okay with you, one of the movement stacks. I think you did, yeah, the airport edition one. I
Oh
thought this
yeah.
was really cool video just to be able to watch. Um, Even just the control that you guys have. That's one of the things that's really stands out is I know there's a strength component, and a lot of people when they're trying to move better, there's this I need to get stronger. Like I'm just not strong. One of the things that stands out about the people that are practicing Movnat and the instructors is like a lot of it looks almost effortless. Like there's an efficiency standpoint that seems different. Is it strength or is there a movement efficiency or even like this video here? Like I like the trying to ask somebody to go from a sitting position to almost like a single leg pistol, like the single leg squat get up. Can you talk about like is it strength or efficiency? Kind of where does that fall in line?
So strength and agility comes from your ability to do a movement.
Mhm.
So our mindset is always practical. Okay. So in this video, for example, I don't think about being strong. I think about I have to get up from this position. So
Mm,
my brain finds a way. For example, I will put my arms in front of me as a counterweight, to be able to leverage, to have a body leverage, a body weight shift, as we call it.
yeah.
And as you do it, you may struggle at the beginning. You may feeling like, oh, it's really hard, but your brain finds a way to be more and more efficient. We are an efficiency machine.
Mm,
The more you do something, I mean, if you lace your shoes, right? Do you think about it?
no.
But at the beginning, did you have to think about it?
I'm
A
sure
lot.
so many times, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time, right? But you're like, okay, I put the ear and I knot, and you have to really think about every single step of the sequence. And
Mm,
it's the same thing for every single movement. When I refer to the workout the world forgot video,
mm,
and I told you, oh, it looked easy. That's another way of defining efficiency. Easy looking. If you see someone who's moving and you're like, oh, that looks easy, well, usually this person can be defined as very efficient. You know,
mhm. Yeah,
so if you can make it look easy, you know that you're on a good path,
yeah.
right? So this is not strength will be the consequence of it. Being fit will be the byproduct. Okay, that's the what we say is that get skilled and get fit in the process. You know.
Mm,
So what you show now, you can see Erwan doing a natural movement here. He doesn't think about his muscles or his joints or his mobility. He's just trying to be in nature and try to see what he can do over there. And the brain will find a way to move well, and to be safe. In this environment, you can see he's landing here. He will use a lot of hip mobility to absorb the impact, like right now. He's using a hip hinge here, and a lot of people don't use their hips anymore.
mhm,
They use their spine to compensate on the hips not working enough. So everything we do during our events is to, like I told you at the beginning, is to reset, to be like, okay, your spine is supposed to stabilize it. The hips should work. So how do we make our hips work better? So for example, if you go in a bush like this, you have
mhm.
no choice but using your hips, or if you don't want to get the branches in your head.
Right.
And it's way less boring to think about going through a natural environment than just thinking about, oh, I have to do 12 hip hinges. So that's
Mhm,
the difference between practical training
mm,
and functional training. I think a lot of people understand the concept of functional training, you know, They will do a lot of reps based on movement that are functional, but our mindset is more about what can you do with these movements. For example, you mentioned the single leg squat or the pistol squat, like everybody calls it. Okay.
Yeah.
For us, we don't really use pistol. We just use the the movement based on the equipment we have. It's a single leg, and I squat from this single leg. So that's why we call it a single leg squat get up.
Right.
Instead of saying, okay, I will do 10 reps of those, our mindset is if I have to carry someone on my shoulders, okay, let's say I have we use a fireman carry. You're on my shoulders here. And I have to climb stairs to save this person from a house on fire, let's say a burning house. Whenever you will step on those stairs, you will be on a single leg. Do you agree?
Yeah.
And you will not think about, oh, I have to do 10 reps of those. You will think about, I better not screw up this one rep on the stair. Because if I'm not strong enough on this leg and I collapse, then not only I do collapse, but the person on top of me will collapse.
Right.
So your focus and your alertness is way higher than doing a functional training when you do 1 rep, 2 reps, 3 reps. It's kind of repetitive and boring. But when you are living a real situation, when you have to save this person, and you see a big step in front of you, that you have to do a step up, you put your foot on this step, and you're like, that's the rep that counts now. I really need to get on top of this. You put all your energy, all your brain cells are focused only on this. This is where you get a very good rep, to be honest. So the practical mindset is truly important, and that makes us having a better longevity. I never get bored. Since I started Movnat, to be honest, I never got bored in a training because I always find something to do. I can sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do, but I'm just looking at my environment around me, and I'm like, oh, I see a branch. Let me hang from it. And I don't even put expectations on this training. I'm like, you know what? I feel a bit tired today. We just hang. But by hanging, somehow I get some energy boost. And then I'm like, oh, what if I do a foot pinch on it? Meaning, like from the hang, I get my feet clipping and pinching the branch.
Yeah.
Then I see my abs going on fire, I'm activating everything. And I'm like, what if I do it on the other side? And then I go back on the ground. I'm like, oh, I want to do another round of this. Or maybe I want to be now balancing on this branch, and so on and so forth. So, and then if I did climbing one day, if I did crawling the other day, and balancing on the third day, then I will be like, oh, I haven't done lifting for 4 days. Last time I did it was 4 days ago. Let me take a rock and lift. But then I'm like, oh, climbing was 4 days ago, and so on. So it's a never-ending story, but it's never boring because you don't have to go to the same location all the time. You can basically say, I can go to a park, I can go to visiting my family. Oh, they have a backyard, they have some grass. Maybe, oh, the grass is soft, I would like to roll, to do a forward roll, or just side rolls, whatever. So it's a never-ending story.
It seems like the intention, is more on the present moment feeling of the motion, not just. I know a lot of times when people go to the gym, it's like, okay, I got 10 reps, I got to get done with those, and then I got to do my set of bench press and get done with those. And it's like, it seems like this is like, how does my body feel? Try it out, explore it, and then if you feel good, do a little bit more, or if not, you pull back. And it seems very intuitive, but also present moment, like what's going on in your body. Is that is that it, or way off on that?
No, you're right, but I think I would add that it depends on your level. I think discipline is very important as well. So I think it's still good for people to say, I need those 10 reps, I need those 20 reps because this is an objective I put on myself, and I was not disciplined before. I need to improve on my discipline. and my consistency. So you need to put expectation on yourself too on this. But once you reach a certain level, like I think I have now, uh, it's all about maintenance,
Mm.
skill maintenance, and our conditioning will always go up and down. You cannot maintain a high level of conditioning all the time. This is not true. And people on Instagram will show that they are shredded all year long and like high intensity all year long. Okay,
Yeah.
good, but it's not really sustainable. What's sustainable is to understand that your cycle will go up and down, but the skill you should maintain. The when you go on a bicycle, you have your skill, but you will not be maybe conditioned to do the Tour de France.
Yeah.
But if you want to, well, you have the skill, and you will have to, do a lot of miles to be able to reach that level. So I still remember when I did my level 3 and Erwan Accord was the instructor. It was 4 days, and the last day was dedicated to physical tests,
Mm.
demos. We have to show that we are able to do some movements. And Erwan was just sitting on the ground and explaining what we should do, and then he would stand up. He would do the movement. Could be like a power up, also muscle up in the fitness world. Then he would pop over the bar, balancing and then landing on a 2x4 beam in a split landing. And he's like, "That's your test." And he would go back sitting on the ground with no warm up and so on. So the whole group was like, "Wow, okay." So we can see the level of efficiency. And he gave a speech at the end of this day. And basically, what he was saying is that, guys, I don't train as I used to. I'm a father. I run a company. Have a lot of things. I do a lot of work on the laptop, like a lot of people. Uh, but all I'm training now is my skill maintenance. Some from time to time I practice those to make sure I still have it.
Mm.
And this is the way I keep healthy and feeling good. And it always stuck to my mind, like, yeah, skill maintenance is the key. And if you really want to be conditioned, then you will put the reps and rounds, and you will get back to everybody knows in the fitness world, the tabatas and different protocols to get fit, the metabolic cycle.
Yeah. When you mentioned the aspect of skill maintenance for some of these motions, there's so far above where people are starting. Like, where do you start to build that skill, and how would someone expand? Even for me, like I can do pistol squat on my left leg, but my right knee it'll pop out of place. And so, like, I wanna be able to get it on both sides and that fluidity off the ground. How does someone regress or progress into that experience? Because like, a p muscle up for most people are like, "Yeah, I'm not even close to hanging." Um,
Yeah, well, so you just gave the answer in your question, because you mentioned, how do I progress, how do I regress? We do have regressions and progressions for every single skill.
hmm,
So within one skill, you have different techniques, and each technique has regressions and progressions. So we
hmm,
show one level of it, and then people would say, "Well, that's too easy for me." We say, "Okay, good. We have a progression for you. We have a higher level of complexity, higher level of intensity, and you can put a higher volume if you want to." We call it VIC: volume, intensity, complexity,
okay.
right? And if people are like, "Wow, that's way above, way beyond my level," like, all right, no problem. We also have regressions for you. And I always say that, and all my students know it. The solution is always on the ground. So
Hmm,
whenever you are stuck somewhere, you're like, what can I do on the ground that will help me build this skill?
yeah,
Doesn't matter how far you are, you can always do something. So if
hmm,
you mentioned the pistol, the single leg squat get up, you can do it on the left, not on the right. Or well, we would do a split squat, for example. We would do a lot of kneeling like from the video you just showed, the one I did in the airport, you know,
Right.
flex foot kneel to kneel, deep knee bend. Make sure that you feel comfortable in those positions
Yeah.
before you do, because you said the transition would be hard, right? To be able to get from the ground to stand up, that's the transition you're talking about. And you say, well, I'm not able to do this transition. Okay, so what I would like you to do is to feel great in the position A and great in the position B. Okay, and within the position A, let's see how many mini sub positions you could think of. And
Mm.
maybe you can't even sustain one position. You're like, oh, that's way too painful. Okay, no wonder you cannot do a transition if you don't feel comfortable in one position,
Right.
right? So you just mentioned, oh, the power up. I cannot do the transition. Well, oh, because I cannot hang first. Well, then hang first. That's
Mm.
why I always say the level 1 climbing is harder than a level 2 climbing. And people usually are like, that doesn't make sense, level 1 harder than level 2. Why? Because this is the baseline. And you have to spend a lot of time on your baseline. You don't run before you walk, and you don't walk before you crawl.
I surprised myself the other day, kind of on the same lines where I've been doing a lot of like side swing traverse. I do some hanging and then I do the side swing back and forth. Haven't tried anything else. And then played around with the pop up and I was like shot up over the bar and ended up on my elbows holding the bar and haven't tried that at all. But the speed almost surprised me that I actually was able to do it. So I'm taking away that it's like you said, the level before is where we should spend the most time and really build that foundation from there. Is that what you were saying, or?
That's totally correct. And you mentioned a great example about the pop up, which is a level 2. It's a climb up move from the level 2 curriculum.
Mhm.
It's a great move actually to be able to use your forearm to get on top of a surface. Um, and what you need for this movement is your lot of lat strength.
Mm.
Okay, and how do you develop lat strength? It's from the level 1. It's from a scapula pull.
Mhm.
Okay, really a good scapula pull, scapula control is from all the swings you mentioned, the side swings, the front swings, the one arm dead hang, locking with the scapula. So you always feel like, okay, it's contracting well, I'm using it well. And then when you get back to your pop up and you started to use it fully, you're like, wow, now it's connecting. My brain is connecting with the muscle groups I need to activate. You
Right.
know, so it's all linked. It's interconnected.
Is there, and this may not happen as much in the Movement community, and I'm curious if it does. I know some of the people we train, it's like they see the hard motion and like that's the goal, like a full push up, not on their knees, like that's what I got to do. So they'll train that only and not be willing to do it on their knees first or just prone get up type things. Is that something that you have to teach people to slow down or to like, and if so, yeah, how do you get them to be like, okay, don't worry about your muscle up, just hang from the bar. For those that are like, no, I need to do that. Is that
Yeah, that's why I refer to the kids at the beginning, because kids, don't think this way. But we are
yeah,
triggered by ego.
right,
You know, it's more about your ego because you either saw a video from someone doing it, or you saw your neighbor doing it, or your best friend doing it, and you want to do the same, but you're not them,
yeah,
or you didn't do the work they were doing,
right,
or whatever thing, or maybe you're 40 pounds heavier than them.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. There are many factors. So the role of a coach is to be honest and say, yes, I mean, you're not at that level, but it's okay. We know the path. We know the protocol.
yeah,
Um, I was teaching my son to do a pull up. He's 15 years old and he's a good soccer player, but
mhm,
and I noticed that he was like me, a bit weak from the upper body, and he could not pull himself up. So I gave him a level 1 protocol the whole summer. I showed him. We did it 2 or 3 times together. he was, struggling at the beginning, and he kept to it. And recently, he showed me a pull-up. He was able to do a full, like a chin on top of the bar, and he was very happy with it. But it was after two full months of just being patient and trusting the process, and not rushing and being or giving up. Like most people give up in the middle, not seeing the results. Okay, so it's important as a Movnat coach to also give good milestones, so you can mark those milestones. Like, yeah, you see, before you were not able to hang for 5 seconds, now you do. Now we'll aim for 10 seconds of hanging. That's a victory. Yes, that's not your pull up yet, but how could you pull yourself up if you can't hang your own body weight, right? So you have to make people understand this and get the ego out of the way.
So really just being there, guiding them through the process and like, hey, this is where you're at. We're going to get there, but we're not ready yet, and building it up. Um, One of the things I find interesting is the confidence that seems to come with exploring natural movement. And like, what was it like for your son to go from not able to do a pull up and just putting in the work over the 2 months? What was that like for him?
I mean, I saw his a boost of self confidence. First of all, he was proud,
Hmm.
to show it. Um, it was funny when it happened because I was like, okay, I want to see it because it's been 2 weeks I haven't seen this, and he did it, and he was like at the forehead level,
Mm.
and but I could see that he didn't put everything he had, and
Mm.
I was like, okay, you will rest now 2 minutes, but the next one I want you to give everything you have, everything. You will squeeze those shoulder blades, you will do everything it takes, but you will reach this. And he actually did. I was filming it, and he did his first pull up, and he was really proud. Then he was, showing me how he's like, oh, I feel my back, I feel my triceps. He could realize his potential,
Yeah.
and that's a great thing, when people realize, wow, I'm different, but I'm not different because someone gave it to me.
Mm.
I'm different because I put in the work, and it's me and my discipline, my consistency, and the whole thing about it. This is beautiful. So that's why uh, natural movement gives a lot of confidence in people, because you feel better, you feel more agile, more energized. You don't need to go to the doctor thinking they will solve problems with pills. You don't spend this money on it. You will spend money elsewhere with maybe better food, like going to the movie theater instead of buying all the thing in the pharmacy. So there's so many things that helps boosting your confidence through this practice.
I love that you talked about it a couple times where like you put in the time and the energy into it and you start to change. Like you become the thing that you're putting your focus on. You mentioned it both when you were changing your career to also putting in the time with the movement as well. Um, I really love that aspect because we don't always realize how much we're changing by where we're putting that attention. And I think it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's funny to. I think back yesterday we were watching some old videos of my training, or
Mm.
my when I was posting like 5 6 years ago, and I can see the difference,
Mm.
not only physically but also in the skill level,
Mm.
all the way, even the way I was speaking, because I was, I don't know, teasing one conference, and I was like, oh, I will be there, and you can see the experience. And okay, we all age and get some more experience, but definitely by doing it over and over and over every day, you just feel more and more comfortable with it.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I had one we're almost out of time, but I wanted to ask one more question about Movnat and lifting. I was exposed to a group that talks about the negative effects of lifting and how lifting is actually doing more harm to our bodies. And I believe from what I've seen, Movnat has a different approach to lifting than just going and deadlifting a couple hundred pounds. It's a lot more variety or less total reps, and I could be off base because I'm kind of watching from the outside. I haven't got level one yet. Is there what are your thoughts on lifting as far as helping our bodies, hurting our bodies, and how do we go about it that it's still that restorative to natural movement?
Yeah, so first of all, Brian, you need to get on your level one
Yeah,
right now.
that's gonna be right after I do the Movnat medical course. That's coming up in they're gonna be in Richmond, which is about an hour from us. Um, so Movnat Medical is gonna be there in December. So that's gonna be the first
Ah,
one.
cool.
And in the spring, I plan to do level one because just I've really enjoyed everything and exploring the movements myself. So yeah, that's on the agenda.
All right, good. So we'll keep in touch. I will hook you up for that.
I appreciate
So yeah, lifting. So I get this question a lot. Like, oh yeah, we can see that we could see you changed a lot in the last years. What do you do outside of Movnat to gain muscle mass?
that.
And I'm like, nothing. I just do Movnat because Movnat has lifting and carrying in the curriculum.
Mm.
So yes, it doesn't have to be a barbell with 300 pounds or something. But if you think about this, we all lift and carry stuff every day.
Mhm.
You know, it doesn't have to be super heavy, but that can be a baby, that can be a grocery bag, that can be whatever. You know, we all pick things from the ground, we deadlift it, let's say, or we hip hinge. So lifting is, I mean, it's definitely part of it. So I like to lift rocks, and obviously you cannot get like the same weight from with a barbell or with a rock because this is compact. This is usually with open grips,
Right.
and this is not close grip. So a lot of things in nature are done with open grip, right? If you jump from height and you land, usually you can use your flat hands to absorb the impact. You don't use your knuckles or your closed fist. So and in nature you don't see rocks with a handle, or you don't see a log with a nice handle for for the farmer carry.
Right.
So but it helps your forearm strength too. Being able to also to defend yourself. You can do palm strike, open palm strike. Okay, you can grapple someone, but at the beginning is with open hand. So a lot of things are again interconnected. Like from the self defense, we have a Movnat combatives. We teach that, and since I was lifting rocks and logs and I was eating more, and better, well, I was getting stronger, like really stronger. If you know the strongman contest, strongman, those guys,
Yep.
those huge guys, they lift Atlas stones. Those huge Atlas stones, and they roll it on their belly. They use a technique we use at level one, which is the lapping technique. You put the rock on your legs, on your laps, and you get on chest carry, shoulder carry, even overhead carry. We do it in a balancing fashion too, so it can be on a 2x4 beam, and you have to shoulder carry a rock and still balance on it, so your core is working a lot. So definitely lifting, carrying is part of it. This morning I went to a local gym where I'm based here now, and I took a kettlebell, and instead of using the handle, I just pressed the kettlebell on each side and I put it at chest level, and I was just walking around the gym.
Hmm.
And at the beginning it's like, yeah, okay, it's cool. But then you start to be very like to feel muscle fatigue, and the compression work is very important too. There's a US strength and conditioning coach called Dan John. I don't know if you heard of him.
Yeah.
And is big on the compression work, right?
Mm.
So take a big sandbag, compress it, squeeze it, and then carry and go with it.
Mm.
You get a lot of mat strength from it. So again, people have to think outside the box. It's not because I don't lift a barbell that I will not get strong. And Movnat is not only about climbing trees and smelling the green leaves and being nature. It's also about doing the hard work, and hard work is lifting. So people, what you say, oh, people say that lifting is not good. It depends on how how you lift, what is the quality of your technique. And this is what we teach too, the efficiency of a good lifting technique. If you have a good technique, you can lift heavy and not being injured.
It seems like even in the lifting process, there's a lot more movement variety that would come than just, like you said, a barbell you grab with the hands, whereas a rock, you pick it up in a different way. The shape of the rock is also gonna influence all the different muscles in our fascia and the different angles. Do you think that plays a role in the ability to maintain that restorative effect of Movnat, or is that what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, again, it's all about diversity, adaptability. Our brain craves diversity.
Mm,
So this is exactly what you said. When I can have the same rock, but I will choose the right angle because sometimes the edge is sharper on one hand. I change it, I flip it. In level 3, we like to lift heavy logs. We do even cooperative carry. So, for example, you have a huge log, like I don't know, half a ton, but you have 15 people to lift it,
mm,
and people have to coordinate. How do we get this big log off the ground? How do we put it from A to B? Uh,
right.
there's something to it. There's something that taps into our DNA. To lift those kinds of things.
Yeah, very cool. And I know you're very passionate about this. We're about out of time. Is there anything else you want to share or just leave people with?
Well, no. First of all, thank you, Brian, for the invitation. Well, it's always a great pleasure for me to discuss all those topics. You had great questions. You are a great interviewer, so thank you. I really appreciate the conversation. What I can say is that, yeah, just follow us. Thank you for the support, movnat.com. You can follow me on my Instagram page. I share, like you said, a lot of workouts every day to inspire people. And we run events all over the world. We even creating right now a retreat that will
Mm,
be in Tulum, Mexico, close to Cancun in February, and we want to bring all the instructors and having a great retreat to invite a lot of people for the foundation. So we will be on the beach and teaching ground movement, teaching a lot of basic on climbing and hang out together. So for us at Movnat, it's all about the community and connect. And despite all this COVID stuff that we went through, uh, online things are great. This is how we can connect you and me. And we have e-courses, we have online coaching, which is great too. But we really focus on the in-person events because human beings need that.
mm. Well, Jerome, I really appreciate it. As you said, you can follow him at or learn more about Movnat at movnat.com. Thank you guys for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode. Thank you again, Jerome.
Thank you.